Hello, hello. My name's Sammy, aka Fortune Boy, and that was Fingerstyle First-day number 3, which is the third installment in my brand new series, Fingerstyle First-days. My new Fingerstyle series is basically aimed at beginner fingerstyle players or people who are just looking for a little bit something different to practice, something a little bit more kind of chill and easy. Now, if you're new here, this is piece number 3 out of 10. They are in difficulty order. So if you've never tried fingerstyle before, if you want to start at the easiest, then go back and work your way through piece number 1 and piece number 2. And then today we'll talk about piece number 3. So as always, I'm going to teach you the whole thing in this lesson right here, but if you prefer to have the sheet music in front of you, then you can pick up my PDF book from my website, Fingerstyle First-days. It has all 10 pieces, lovely scored, tabbed out for you, so you can basically read along whilst you use these lessons. The book also comes with 3 different MP3s per track, basically one at track's tempo, another one slowed down, and another one slowed down again, just in case you want to listen to it. And as always, at the very end of the video, if you use your chapters, then you'll have a ukulele clean playthrough. There'll be none of the backing that's used in the first half, it'll just be ukulele only. So if you want to hear me performing it at track tempo, skip to the very end of the video. So grab a high G-tuned ukulele, and then let's kick off. Now, before we kick off learning the piece, we've got some theory babble time. Now, in this piece, we don't really have many chords per se, and the main thing that we do is we have kind of these fragments of chords. Now, if we have a look at the very first chord that we're playing, it's essentially the 9th fret on the C string, and then the 8th fret on the E string. And in the tab, I've called that an A minor chord. Now, how on earth is that an A minor? And because it actually comes from this shape here, which is 9, 8, 7. And that chord is an A minor 7, or basically just an A minor. Now, you might have never known that there's an A minor that lives all the way up here, but you've definitely probably played this shape before, because if we move it all the way down to the 2nd fret, then it's actually an E minor chord. And no doubt you played an E minor chord, who I call the Staircase of Sadness. So how did we get from an E minor chord to an A minor chord all the way up here without actually changing the shape of the chord at all? And that's because on the ukulele and other fretted instruments, we have things called movable chords. And that really does simply mean that some of your chord shapes can literally be moved up the fretboard and they literally create brand new chords. So this system follows basically every time we move that chord shape up a fret, it goes up a note in the musical alphabet. And what I mean by that is at the moment, this is an E minor chord. So if I move this chord literally up a fret, we go to the next note in the musical alphabet, which is an F. And so it was an E minor before, so now it's an F minor. And basically the system keeps on going. If I moved it up one more fret, it'd be an F sharp minor. If I moved it up another fret to the 5th fret, it's a G minor, and then a G sharp minor again. And then by the time I've got to the 7th fret, I have an A minor. I've gone E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A minor. Okay, no more theory. Let's go talk about Fingerstyle First-day number 3. Okay, so just like the other first-day pieces, this whole first-day collection is really about training your plucking hand rather than your fretting hand. But as we go down, I'm going to be testing this hand more and more and more. So on the right hand, I'm still attacking it with a 3-finger attack. So that means my thumb always plucks the G string, my thumb always plucks the C string, my index finger always plucks the E string, and then my middle finger always plucks the A string. I'm using that as a blanket rule, okay? And I think if you try and stick to that blanket rule, then you're never confused and you don't have to ask questions, which fingers do I have to pluck with which? It's always that rule. G, thumb, C, thumb, index, E, and then middle for A. But as I always say, if you do have a method of fingerstyle that you're already happy with, totally do that. I'm not going to mess with it. So the main finger pattern that we're going to be using pretty much throughout this whole piece goes like this. We're going to play C, E, C, E, C, E, C, A. And that means I'm plucking the C with my thumb, E with index, C with thumb, E with index, C with thumb, E with index, C with thumb, A with middle. And if I was to count that, it should add up to 8 because I'm playing 8 notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that is actually the bare bones of what's happening on the plucking hand the whole time, okay? String 3, string 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1. And that's, like I said, going on for most of the bars here. So for bar 1, we're going to play this, but we just need to add a chord. And it is like that A minor 7 chord I talked about earlier. So I want you to use your middle finger on the C string, on the 9th fret, and then your index finger on the 8th fret on the E string, and that leaves the G and the A strings both open. So you should get that kind of A minor 7-ish chord. Now we rely a lot on open strings for this piece. So we've got to make sure that your fretting hand is really, these knuckles are really, really vertical like this. And that basically means you create more space to the next string so you don't block out the open string, which is really, really easy to do. So when playing this chord, just make sure these fingers are really curved. You can bring your thumb basically more to the side of the neck around there, and it kind of makes it a bit easier to squeeze like that. So you can do that, but again, your thumb can actually be anywhere really for this piece. So once we've got that chord in place, like I said, we're just going to play C, E, C, E, C, E, C, A. And again, that's thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, middle. So that should sound like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And if you lose count, you can kind of count with your thumb. And basically on the 4th thumb, you know you have to pluck the A string. 1, 2, 3, 4. So any method of kind of counting it and getting it right is whatever's easiest for you. So for bar 2, we're actually going to do exactly the same. So we need to play the same thing, C, E, C, E, C, E, C, A. And that means the 2 bars are going to go straight sequentially together. So if I play bars 1 and 2, we end up as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And so for bar 3, we're going to keep the same plucking pattern, but what we need to do is your middle finger is going to stay on the fretboard. You're just going to move essentially everything down 2 frets. So your middle finger goes to the 7th fret. And then the index finger on the E string we can get rid of. We don't need it. So I would keep your middle finger on the C string, and now it should just be alone on the 7th fret. So we should have 0, 7, 0, 0. Now once we're there, we're going to play the exact same pattern. C, E, C, E, C, E, C, A. And then bar 4 is going to be exactly the same thing. C, E, C, E, C, E, C, A. And again on the plucking hand, I'm using thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, middle to pluck that. And like I said, I think it's a real good way, whilst we're still here in the beginning, to get used to using those fingers. You might be tempted to use your index to go over and click the A. You can do that, but I think it's good at this stage to basically just get used to just using your index there, and your middle is waiting on the A string for whenever it's needed. So that means bars 3 and 4 would go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So once we've got that pattern in, feeling okay on our plucking hand, then it's just kind of a matter of getting used to repeating it and not exploding, and remember where the A string comes in. So if I play the whole first line for us, we would go back to our A minor, and again I'm using my middle finger for this. If you want to use different fingers, that's totally fine. I only suggest you're free to do whatever you want. Okay, so 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 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 3 and 4 and. So there we have it, that's line 1. Again, what's most important is just getting the muscle memory of that pattern on your plucking hand and just sitting there and getting used to it and feeling where that A string chimes in. And I do think it's really important that when we change chords, like I said, it's just you keep the middle finger and you just kind of bring your hand just down 2 frets, okay? If we're not really taking, you don't have to take your middle finger off and then bring it there. You just basically stop pushing down and then just slowly slide it down. But essentially, it's less work for us to do. Realistically, we can play most of this piece with just your middle finger on the C string, so getting used to keeping it there is pretty important. Okay, so the fun thing is that our next line is actually identical. Bars 5, 6, 7, and 8 are exactly the same as bars 1, 2, 3, and 4. So here is a full playthrough of line 2, bars 5, 6, 7, and 8. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 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 3 and 4 and. So once you finish line number 2, we come into bar 9. Now to start with bar 9, it's all just going to be about our middle finger on the C string, very much like that G6 chord we've just been playing. So what I want you to do is move your middle finger down to the 5th fret on the C string. So we should have 0, 5, 0, 0. And for bar 9, we're going to pluck our exact same pattern. C, E, C, E, C, E, C, A. And again, if we're playing that, ooh, it sounds a bit weird. That's because we're playing an F note on our C string, and then we're playing an E note on our E string. So F and E right next to each other, so we got that dissonance again. Might sound scary, but like I said, to me, I think it works really well at this pitch on the ukulele. So for bar 10, we're going to play exactly the same as bar 9. So I've still got my middle finger on the 5th fret of the C string. We're going to pluck C, E, C, E, C, E, C, A. So if I play bars 9 and 10 together, 5th fret, we would go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so for bar 11, we have something slightly different coming up for the next 2 bars. We're actually never going to play the A string, so it's just going to be alternating between the C and E strings this time. So first of all, we need to move our 5th fret down to the 2nd fret. And again, I'm going to use my middle finger for all of this just because I can. You're free to use whatever fingers you use. So if you prefer to switch up fingers between these so it's not so much of a big jump, that's also totally fine. Just do whatever you feel is comfortable. Right, so once I'm on the 2nd fret C string, I should have 0, 2, 0, 0. We're going to pluck our C and E, but we're just going to basically go C, E, C, E. And that's it for the moment. 1 and 2 and. So for the rest of bar 11, what I'm then going to do is basically get rid of my middle finger. So I've just got open strings. I'm going to pluck C, E, C, E. 3 and 4 and. Just like that. So bar 11, we start off on the 2nd fret C string. We play C, E, C, E. Then open that string up. C, E, C, E. And rhythmically, that'll be straight 8th notes, so we'll be going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now bar 12 takes us to the 4th fret on the C string. So once we've got that open there, you can start to think about moving your hand to the 4th fret, so it's not so much of a rush. So 4th fret C string, 0, 4, 0, 0 we should have now. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go C, E, C, E. And again, really, we're playing E, 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 E note-wise. So it might sound a little strange, but we're just plucking C, E, C, E. And then this time, I actually want you to keep that finger there. You don't have to, but I think it's nice to keep some sustain. And we're going to go to the G string with our thumb, and then pluck the E string still with our index finger, and then pluck G string again, and then E string again. So we go G, E, G, E instead. So bar 12, I'm on the 4th fret C string. I'm going to pluck C, E, C, E, G, E, G, E. And like I said, you can get rid of your middle finger after that if you want to, but to be honest, we're just going to move up back to the 5th fret, so you might as well keep your middle finger down. So bars 15 and 16 will sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so let's play the whole of line 3 then. We start on the 5th fret of the C string. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Right, so then we move on to bar 13, line 4. So essentially we just finished on the 4th fret of the C string, so we're going to go back to the 5th fret, and essentially bar 13 and 14 are going to sound the same as bars 9 and 10. So that means we go C, E, C, E, C, E, C, A. And then for bar 14, we're going to play exactly the same thing, C, E, C, E, C, E, C, A. Bar 15 will be the same as bar 11, so that just means we move our middle finger down to the 2nd fret. We do the C, E, C, E, then open up, C, E, C, E. And then for our final bar, bar 16, we're going to come back to the 4th fret, but this time we're just going to stay on the 4th fret and go C, E, C, E, C, E, C, E. So we just pluck those for the whole bar. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, instead of going to the G string halfway through. So if I play the whole of line 4 for us, it should go like this. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 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 3 and 4 and. And that's the first half of our piece complete. Now the second half is similar, but we're just going to have some variations on our plucking hand, so that makes it a little bit more interesting. Okay, so moving on to bar 17. We've seen this before. We're back to our original A minor 7 fragment chord, so that means it's the middle finger on the 9th fret, C string, and then E string, 8th fret with our index finger. Same pattern that we had before, C, E, C, E, C, E, C, A. So hopefully we've got that down. Now so far for the second bar, after that we've always repeated that, but we have a little difference here. So for bar 18, rather than play C, E, C, E, etc, etc, we're actually going to play a classic ukulele arpeggio, which is C, E, G, A. And finger-wise, what that means is we go thumb, index, thumb, middle. C, E, G, A. And counting-wise, there's just going to be 8th notes, so we just go 1 and 2 and. That's all that is. Now we're going to let that sound kind of sustain and hold until the beat of 4, and then when it comes to 4, what we're going to do is just take our thumb and just strum all those strings nice and softly like that. So by 18, counting-wise, we would go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let me do that slowly. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So if I put bar 17 and 18 back to back, they should sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so for bar 19, we're going to move down to that G6 chord again. So again, just middle finger down 2 frets to the 7th fret. Get rid of your index finger. So you should have 0, 7, 0, 0. And bar 19 is going to be the same. C, E, C, E, C, E, C, A. So same pattern that we're used to seeing. And then for bar 20, we're doing this new pattern, which was our C, E, G, A, strum. So if I play 19 and 20, we would go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So line 5, bars 17, 18, 19, 20 should sound like this. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 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 3 and 4 and. Okay, so no surprises that line 6 is going to be exactly the same as what we just played for line 5. So line 6 will be the same. Should sound like this. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 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 3 and 4 and. So really, it kind of feels like we've done 2 lines of that new pattern right now. That's what's going on. Okay, next we come to our usual section. So then we move back down to the 5th fret C string. And we're going to keep our usual pattern, C, E, C, E, C, E, C, A. That's the same. We're going to play that for the next bar, which is bar 26. C, E, C, E, C, E, C, A. So basically, same pattern that we've been using. And then we do this little trick again where we go down to the 2nd fret for bar 27, C, E, C, E. Then open it up to the open, C, E, C, E. For bar 28, to the 4th fret on the C string, C, E, C, E. And then it was keeping your middle finger down and playing G, E, G, E. So this line is essentially the same as line 3, okay? So line 7, here's a full playthrough. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 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 3 and 4 and. And then for our final line, line 8, it's going to be exactly the same as line 4, but with one small little difference. All I'm going to ask is that for the very last bar, just to create some drama, we're just going to slow it down, okay? So that means that for bar 29, we're back to our 5th fret on the C string, and we're going to play C, E, C, E, C, E, C, A. Then for our next bar, bar 30, exactly the same. C, E, C, E, C, E, C, A. Bar 31, same tricks, move down to the 2nd fret, the C string, C, E, C, E, open it up, C, E, C, E. Then for the almost pretty much the final bar, bar 32, we're down to the 4th fret on the C string, and we're just going to do the C, E, C, E, C, E, C, E that we've done before. But like I said, what we're going to do is just slightly slow down as we go through this bar. So rather than going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, we're going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, kind of like we're running out of batteries and that's it. Demise is near. But it just brings some emotion and drama to the end of the piece, showing that the whole thing is coming to basically an end, and it kind of fits into the very nice thing. So that's bar 32, would go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and slow that down. And then for our last bar, we're just going to move back up to the 5th fret on the C string, and we're just going to give that a nice big slow strum right there to end the piece. So I'm going to tack that last ending strum bar onto our last line, line 8. So whole playthrough of line 8, this is what it should sound like. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 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 3 and 4 and we have that final strum just on the piece. So there we go, lots of repetition, and again it's just to kind of burn these patterns into muscle memory, okay? That's the whole point with these. Remember that there is a ukulele playthrough without the backing at the very end of this piece, so if you want to hear it just on its own, go skip to the end of the piece. And there we have it. Congratulations you, that is Fingerstyle First-day number 3 completed and done. Let me know what you think of this piece down in the comments. Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Do you like the backing? Do you not like the backing? I'm just curious. I'm a nosy boy, so I'm always basically interested in what you're thinking. You can join me again in 2 weeks, same place, same time, to learn Fingerstyle First-day number 4. And if you're a really impatient person, you can just check out in the book. But like I said, it's nice to spread these out and try and learn it along with me if you'd like to. Oh, and just in case you get any questions, the uke I performed this on today was the Flight Nomad tenor. It's got the stock strings on it. It's a lovely little kid. If you want to find out more about the Flight Nomad tenor, I've done a big old review on the thing. Spoiler, I like it a lot, but go check out the review to hear some more sound samples and see if you like it. Please like and subscribe if this video has been helpful to you. It does help out in the YouTube gods, but yes, it's just one of those things that I'll ask every time. Love you lots. Have a good week. Stay out of trouble. Bye bye.